Giant pine cone. Made it to the top. Honestly, was not sure that I was gonna make it. Not because I was getting too tired or my muscles were cramping or anything like that, but because it's so hot outside, I was just near the end constantly having to take breaks wherever I found shade and just try to cool off a bit. My heart rate was super high and trying to take sips of water and just take my hat off and cool off. But I don't know, I didn't expect it to be this hot up here. And I had on a long sleeve black shirt and I got pants on, my socks tucked in my pants because there's a lot of poison oak on the trail. And even where there's not poison oak, there's a lot of brush encroaching in the trail. So you're just constantly scraping up against brush when you're coming up. So that's why I had the long pants and the long sleeves. But with like a mile left to go, I had to take that long sleeve shirt off, and I'm glad I did. It helped a lot, and there wasn't too much brush in the last mile, at least on the upper half of my body. It wasn't scraping much. There was some, but mostly it was still my lower half. So I'm glad I did that. It did help a lot. And I was getting a little bit of breeze up here. Still super hot, even up here. It's 5,100 feet of elevation, but it must just be a hot day out. It must be really hot at sea level. It feels like it's like 80 degrees at least up here, and the sun's just beating down. So that helped a lot, but even still, that last mile, I was having to just stop anywhere I found shade and just try to cool off. So yeah, it was a bit sketchy getting up getting up with all the heat, but glad that I made it to the top. The view up here is pretty awesome. And now I just got to make it back down. I got to come up the exact same way I went down, which is going to be interesting, but at least it's downhill, which should be a little bit easier, I think, in some ways. So yeah, pumped to make it to the top, though. I took a little bit of a rest up here at the top. I had some food, so I'm feeling a little more rejuvenated now. There's this building up here at the top that provides some shade, which is helpful. So now I'm gonna head down, make the hike back to Vicente Flat camp, same place I camped last night. This is definitely the hardest hike I've done thus far, for sure. I'm only halfway through it so far, I guess. But probably partially because it's just a hard hike, a lot of climbing, partially because of the heat. It's really hot outside, and then also carrying heavy pack. I'm not used to hiking with a heavy pack, and especially not climbing with one, so yeah, made it quite a tough hike, but it feels good, like more of an accomplishment, so that's nice. And we'll see how the hike back down to camp goes now. One thing that I forgot to mention was that I misjudged the amount of water that I had on me for this hike, for the hike from camp to the summit and back to camp. I thought that I had 2 liters in my Camelback, but I think I actually had closer to 1 liter in there. And the reason, I think, is because when I checked my Camelback beforehand, I just peeked at it inside the bag, and it was squished, so the water level was higher than where it would have been at if I had pulled the bag out, pulled the Camelback out and held it like this. So I think it looked like there was more water than there actually was. So if I were to do that again, the lesson learned was that I should pull the Camelback all the way out and, actually look at the amount of water that way. So I was drinking from the Camelback, like sucking on the mouthpiece, and felt it run dry about halfway up my ascent, maybe a little more than halfway up the ascent. So I was surprised. I didn't think that it was empty, but I checked it and it was empty, so I realized that I had just misjudged it. But luckily I had a separate water bottle on me. I had a smart water bottle, 1 liter, that was full. So I had to make the decision of whether to continue to the top and just try to ration that 1 liter for the rest of the ascent and then majority of the descent, or to turn back. And so obviously I decided to keep going, which in hindsight was probably not the smartest decision, but luckily it worked out fine for me. So that played a big role as well. I had to ration this 1 liter of water for 75% of the hike, pretty much, which made it tougher, I think, on such a hot day. I definitely should have been drinking much more water than I was able to,
I was having to kind of just sip on it and make sure I didn't use too much, while also making sure I didn't become too dehydrated or anything like that. So I just wanted to mention that because that was a very important part of the hike as well. The fact that I was having to ration this water, it was not a good thing, but it kind of played a big role in how the hike played out. So I thought it should be something that I'd mention. So I ended up using that water for the rest of the ascent, and then the descent up until I got back into the woods near the streams, where I was able to filter some more water. Um, but that was, near the end of the hike, maybe like a mile from camp or so. So it felt great to finally get to filter some water and just drink a bunch of it. But I was pretty exhausted, and probably dehydrated.
Alright, almost back down. Just enjoying the views from up here before I head all the way down. You can see the water from up here. Looks pretty nice. And the marine layer on the mountains. Finally made it. And my van is still here, so that's cool.